So what does that mean? It means that less and less people rely on the government for change, and more they rely on themselves. More and more, they create local groups to do what they want to do without getting the government involved. There are limits. You can start a revolution in Tahrir Square with Twitter. You can't really stop it with Twitter. You can start an uprising politically. You can't really start a war or stop it with a lot of our technologies, although you can raise the awareness that will lead people to petition their government to stop it, right? You can raise the awareness of what's going on in human rights around the world because of the speed of technology. But our government is always designed to go slower than your passions. And if there's anything that defines the American government, it is that. It is designed to go slower than your passions. In a dictatorship, in North Korea, in Syria, when the government wants to hurt you, they can hurt you tomorrow. In our country, if the government wanted to do something to you, they at least have to take some time to go through the process, to tax you, to draft you, to violate your rights by changing something. It slows everybody down. That's a good thing. But here's the bad thing. The basis of the whole government is compromise. If you are not willing to share power, you can't really exercise any power. And as a result of that, things don't happen that have to happen. Educating children, rebuilding bridges and roads, revitalizing the economy, dealing with human rights around the world. If you can't have discussions and compromises, and you don't do any of that stuff, if all you do is argue philosophy, that's the beginning of the end. That's where we are. We're at the point now where America, Tom Friedman wrote a book, That Used to Be Us, meaning we used to be the country that took the chances and moved quickly when we needed to change our economy and to protect human rights around the world. And now we are watching other countries economically and politically take over where we used to be involved. Why is that? It's because by the lack of compromise, we have lost the ability to act. We just had an election. The election was about as clear as you could get in an election. Obama said, I'm going to raise taxes on the rich, I'm going to leave Afghanistan, and I'm going to help the poor. And Mitt Romney said, I'm going to lower taxes on the rich, I might leave Afghanistan, maybe not, and I think the government's too big and we ought to let people be fending for themselves. And it was a very clear vote for Obama's vision. And even in the House of Representatives, which the Republicans control, Democratic candidates across the country got several million more votes than Republicans for the House of Representatives. But because of the way we design our political geography, the Republicans still control the House because they created boundaries that allow them to control more of the House, even with fewer votes. So what you now have is people arguing about what should we do. I thought it was pretty clear. We just had an election. But the minority in America always has the right to slow things down. That is now transformed into the right to stop things. And once that happens, you're actually nullifying the election. And that is America's challenge now is, can our form of government survive if we do not compromise to take action based on the last election? If you don't honor an election, then that leads to rebellion. And a lot of people who talk about rebellion are actually on the conservative side, the people who worry about guns, when interestingly, they're pretty much in charge of stopping things. They don't really have to worry as much as the ones who voted for Obama, who wonder, why isn't this happening? What is it about our system of government that the president can't get his defense secretary appointed? Or we can't pass a bill that an overwhelming majority agree with because they have 59 votes out of 100, but not 60. When every other country in the world, all you need is 51, right? Al Gore got more votes in the popular election and didn't become president. Why is that? Because we give every state the ability to be represented separately, and the electoral college system creates 2 or 3 times in our history, majority vote goes this way, the state electoral vote goes that way, and Gore didn't become president. No other democracy can that happen. Only in America can you win the popular vote and not be president, because we still go back to the colonies, each one of which wanted to have power. The Constitution was our second attempt at a government. The first attempt gave the colonies so much power that they never worked together, and that didn't work. The Constitution was 2.0. Okay? So now we get to, what do? How do you change the situation where we've created a government that mirrors how we act as human beings? We allow our passions to rule one house, our mind to rule the other. That's been changed to passions ruling both houses. The superego, the Supreme Court, has become political, so it no longer acts just out of law, but out of politics. The president doesn't have nearly the power that people think he does, because he can only do certain things without Congress. And yet we're supposed to be leading the world. How's this going to work out? What's the last chapter? Well, how has anything ever changed in the history of the world? New people. New people. The people who did the American Revolution were children of the people who came over from the old world. So the people that are going to change our government are not the people in our government now. It is the next group of people that come along. Because when the group that's there now gets stuck, and they've been stuck for a while, they're not capable of changing. Because their level 1 is incapable of changing their story. So I'm not going to say that you're the leaders of tomorrow, because you're already leaders. Okay? So I'm not going to give you that tomorrow you're going to take over the world. You're already taking over the world. The question is, in taking over the world, in changing the world, will you see a role for yourselves in the way the governments of your home countries work? Because the only way, whatever you don't like about your country, just the way there are things I don't like about the way our government's working right now, the only way to change it is new people. And unfortunately, people don't want to go into the government because they think it's too hard. It's too hard. But if you all think that, and that's how you act, then your governments are just going to get worse. Right? How do you make that decision? In your level 1 brain, at some point, you need to add to your impulsive desires the desire to live in a better governed world, not just a better environment or better technology or more wealth or even more rights and equality. At some point, the only way you share your personal success is to be involved in government to share it with everybody else. It's not enough that my grandfather came here from Lebanon and helped himself. He got very involved with the government in my hometown and in Washington to try to help all the people around him, and he had no reason to do it. He had lost a brother and his brother's wife to vigilantes who attacked and killed them because they were immigrants at the time of World War I. He could have just said, screw that, I'm just going to raise my family, make some money, and this country's killed my brother, I'm not going to contribute. And instead he did the opposite. He did the opposite. So, who are we? We're a lot of different stories, we're a lot of emotions, but we're also a brain. How do we know? We don't know. We have to create knowledge by the questions we ask and by our ability to be empathetic with other people and to imagine where they're coming from. Why study history? Because that's how you got here, and it's how everybody around you behaves without being consciously aware of it. And how does our form of government work? It's supposed to work by people harnessing the best of their intuition and the best of their analytical brain and putting them together for causes beyond themselves. That's the whole point. In the Declaration of Independence, they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their mutual honor. And they wrote it with an army very nearby that was trying to kill them all. So, I can't tell you how it's going to end. I don't know how it's going to end. Our government's in a bizarre situation. But the great thing about the way we wrote the Constitution is it has survived slavery, it's survived Nazis, it's survived atrocious crimes against minorities in America, it's survived wars, some of which were righteous and some of which were not, and it will survive this, but not without new people. You're new people. Hope you do something to help. I know you will. And thank you so much for letting me talk to you this morning. I'll take some questions.